And such is as it should be. For God does not reveal God's self to God's self from or through outward observation, but through inward experience. And when inward experience has revealed God's self, outward observation is not necessary. And if outward observation is necessary, inward experience is not possible. If then revelation is requested, it cannot be had, for the act of asking is a statement that it is not there, that nothing of God is now being revealed. Such a statement produces the experience, for your thought about something is creative, and your word is productive. And your thought and your word together are magnificently effective in giving birth to your reality. Therefore shall you experience that God is not now revealed, for if God were, you would not ask God to be.
Does that mean I cannot ask for anything I want? Are you saying that praying for something actually pushes it away from us?
This is a question which has been asked through the ages and has been answered whenever it has been asked. Yet you have not heard the answer or will not believe it. The question is answered again in today's terms and today's language. Thusly, you will not have that for which you ask, nor can you have anything you want. This is because your very request is a statement of lack, and your asking you want a thing only works to produce that precise experience, wanting in your reality. The correct prayer is therefore never a prayer of supplication, but a prayer of gratitude. When you thank God in advance for that which you choose to experience in your reality, you in effect acknowledge that it is there in effect. Thankfulness, thus, the most powerful statement to God, an affirmation that even before you ask, I have answered. Therefore, never supplicate. Appreciate.
But what if I am grateful to God in advance for something and it never shows up? That could lead to disillusionment and bitterness.
Gratitude cannot be used as a tool with which to manipulate God, a device with which to fool the universe. You cannot lie to yourself. Your mind knows the truth of your thoughts. If you are saying thank you, God, for such and such, all the while being very clear that it isn't there in your present reality, you can't expect God to be less clear than you, and so you produce it for you. God knows what you know, and what you know is what appears as your reality.
But then how can I be truly grateful for something I know is not there?
Faith. If you have faith of a mustard seed, you shall move mountains. You come to know it is there because I said it is there, because I said that even before you asked. I shall have answered, because I said and have said to you in every conceivable way. Through every teacher you can name, that whosoever you shall choose, choosing it in my name, so shall it be.
Yet so many people say that their prayers have gone unanswered.
No prayer, and a prayer is nothing more than a fervent statement of what is, so goes unanswered. Every prayer, every thought, every statement, every feeling is creative. To the degree that it is fervently held as truth, to that degree will it be made manifest in your experience. When it is said that a prayer has not been answered, what has in actuality happened is that the most fervently held thought, word, or feeling has become operative. Yet what you must know, and here is the secret, is might be called the sponsoring thought. That is the controlling thought. If therefore you beg and supplicate, there seems a much smaller chance that you will experience what you think you are choosing, because the sponsoring thought behind every supplication is that you do not have now what you wish. That sponsoring thought becomes your reality. The only sponsoring thought which could override this thought is the thought held in that faith that God will grant whatever is asked, without fail. Some people have such faith, very few. The process of prayer becomes much easier when, rather than having to believe that God will always say yes to every request, one understands intuitively that the request itself is not necessary. Then the prayer is a prayer of thanksgiving. It is not a request at all, but a statement of gratitude for what is so.
When you say that a prayer is a statement of what is so, are you saying that God does nothing? That everything which happens after a prayer is a result of the prayer's action?
If you believe that God is some omnipotent being who hears all prayers, say yes to some, no to others, and maybe but now to the rest. You are mistaken. By what rule of thumb would God decide? If you believe that God is the creator and decider of all things in your life, you are mistaken. God is the observer, not the creator. And God stands ready to assist you in living your life, but not in the way you might expect. It is not God's function to create or uncreate the circumstances or conditions of your life. God created you in the image and likeness of God. You have created the rest through the power God has given you. God created the process of life and life itself as you know it. Yet God gave you free choice to do with life as you will. In this sense, your will for you is God's will for you. You are living your life the way you are living your life, and I have no preference in the manner. This is the grand illusion in which you have engaged, that God creates one way or the other what you do. I do not care what you do, and that is hard for you to hear. Yet you do care what your children do when you send them out to play. Is it a matter of consequence to you whether they play tag or hide and seek or pretend? No, it is not, because you know they are perfectly safe. You have placed them in an environment which you consider friendly and very okay. Of course, you will always hope that they do not hurt themselves, and if they do, you will be right there to help them, heal them, allow them to feel safe again, to be happy again, to go and play again another day. But whether they choose hide and seek or pretend will not matter to you the next day either. You will tell them, of course, which games are dangerous to play, but you cannot stop your children from doing dangerous things. Not always, not forever, not in every moment from now until death. It is the wise parent who knows this. Yet the parent never stops caring about the outcome. It is this dichotomy, not caring deeply about the process, but caring deeply about the result, that comes close to describing the dichotomy of God. Yet God, in a sense, does not even care about the outcome, not the ultimate outcome. This is because the ultimate outcome is assured. And this is the second great illusion of man, that the outcome of life is in doubt. It is this doubt about ultimate outcome that has created your greatest enemy, which is fear. For if you doubt outcome, then you must doubt Creator. You must doubt God. And if you doubt God, you must live in fear and guilt all your life. If you doubt God's intentions and God's ability to produce this ultimate result, then how can you ever relax? How can you ever truly find peace? Yet God has full power to match intentions with results. You cannot and will not believe this, even though you claim that God is all-powerful. And so you have to create in your imagination a power equal to God, in order that you may find a way for God's will to be thwarted. And so you have created in your mythology the being you call devil. You have even imagined a God at war with this being, thinking that God solves problems the way you do. Finally, you have actually imagined that God could lose this war. All of this violates you saying you know about God, but this doesn't matter. You live your illusion and thus feel you fear, all out of your decision to doubt God. But what if you made a new decision? What then would be the result? If I tell you this, you would live as the Buddha did, as Jesus did, as did every saint you have ever idolized. Yet, as with most of those saints, people would not understand you. And when you tried to explain your sense of peace, your joy in life, your inner ecstasy, they would listen to your words but not hear them. They would try to repeat your words but would add to them. They would wonder how you could have what they cannot find, and then they would grow jealous. Soon, jealousy turned to rage, and in their anger, they would truly try to convince you that it is you who do not understand God. And if they were unsuccessful at tearing you from your joy, they would seek to harm you. So enormous would be their rage. And when you told them that it does not matter, that even death cannot interrupt your joy nor change your truth, they would surely kill you. Then, when they saw the peace with which you accepted death, they would call you saint and love you again. For it is in the nature of people to love, then destroy, then love again that which they value most.
But why? Why do they do that?
All human actions are motivated at their deepest level by one of two emotions: fear or love. In truth, there are only two emotions, only two words in the language of the soul. These are the opposite ends of the great polarity which I created when I produced the universe and your world as you know it today. These are the 2 points, the alpha and the omega, which allow the system you call relativity to be. Without these 2 points, without these 2 ideas about things, no other idea could exist. Every human thought and every human action is based in either love or fear. There is no other human motivation, and all other ideas are but derivatives of these 2. They are simply different versions, different twists on the same theme. Think of this deeply and you will see that it is true. This is what I called the sponsoring thought. It is either a thought of love or fear. This is the thought behind a thought behind a thought. It is the first thought. It is prime force. It is the raw energy that drives the engine of human experience. And here is how human behavior produces repeat experience after repeat experience. It is why humans love, then destroy, then love again. Always there is the swing from one emotion to the other. Love sponsors, fear sponsors, love sponsors fear. And the reason is found in the first lie, the lie with which you hold as the truth about God, that God cannot be trusted, that God's love cannot be depended upon, that God's acceptance of you is conditional, that the ultimate outcome is thus in doubt. For if you cannot depend on God's love to always be there, on whose love can you depend? If God retreats and withdraws when you do not perform properly, will not mere mortals too? And so, it is in that moment you pledge your highest love. You greet your greatest fear. For the first thing you worry about after saying, "I love you," is whether you'll hear it back. And if you hear it back, then you begin immediately to worry that the love you have just found you will lose. And so, all action becomes a reaction. Defense against loss, even as you seek to defend yourself against the loss of God. Yet if you knew who you are, that you are the most magnificent, the most remarkable, the most splendid being God has ever created, you would never fear. For who could reject such a wondrous magnificence? Not even God could find fault in such a being. But you do not know who you are, and you think you are a great deal less. And where did you get the idea of how much less than magnificent you are? From the only people whose word you would take on everything, from your mother and your father. These are the people who love you the most. Why would they lie to you? Yet, have they told you that you are too much of this and not enough of that? Have they not reminded you that you are to be seen and not to be heard? Have they not scolded you in some of the moments of your greatest exuberance? And did they not encourage you to set aside some of your wildest imagining? These are the messages you've received, and though they do not meet the criteria and are thus not messages from God, they might as well have been, for they have come from the gods of your universe, surely enough. It was your parents who taught you that love is conditional. You have felt their conditions many times, and that is the experience you take into your own love relationships. It is also the experience you bring to me. From these experiences, you draw your conclusions about me. With this framework, you speak your truth. God is a loving God, you say, but if you break His commandments, He will punish you with eternal banishment and everlasting damnation. For have you not experienced the banishment of your own parents? Do you not know the pain of their damnation? How then could you imagine it to be any different with me? You have forgotten what it was like to be loved without condition. You do not remember the experience of the love of God, and so you try to imagine what God's love must be like based on what you see of love in the world. You have projected the role of parent onto God and have thus come up with a God who judges and rewards or punishes based on how good He feels about what you've been up to. But this is a simplistic view of God based on your mythology. It has nothing to do with who I am. Having thus created an entire thought system about God based on human experience rather than spiritual truths, you then create an entire reality around love. It is a fear-based reality rooted in the idea of a fearful, vengeful God. Its sponsoring thought is wrong, but to deny that thought would be to disrupt your whole theology. And though the new theology, which would replace it, would truly be your salvation, you cannot accept it because the idea of a God who is not to be feared, who will not judge, and who has no cause to punish is simply too magnificent to be embraced within even your grandest notion of who and what God is. This fear-based love reality dominates your experience of love, indeed actually creates it. For not only do you see yourself receiving love, which is conditional, you also watch yourself giving it in the same way.